Hello, my name is Colin Maitland. I'm a Microsoft Dynamics CRM Certified Technology Specialist. I'm also a Microsoft Certified Trainer, and I work with Magnetism Solutions, a Microsoft Gold Certified Partner specializing in Dynamics 365 and CRM. In Dynamics 365 for sales and customer service, there is two methods that may be used for sharing records with other users who might not normally have access to those records. The first method is the use of sharing, through the use of the sharing button on the command bar. This method enables records to be shared with other users or teams with specific permissions that are selected at the point of time that the record is shared. The second method is the use of access teams, through the use of access team specific subgrids on a form, which enable records to be shared with other users with specific permissions that were configured at the time that the access team templates were configured. In this presentation, I will demonstrate the sharing of cases using sharing, and I will then demonstrate the configuration and use of sharing cases using access teams. The use of sharing and access teams applies to both Dynamics 365 for sales and Dynamics 365 for customer service. However, cases as used in this demonstration are only available in Dynamics 365 for customer service. I have added three users to this instance of Dynamics 365, Charlotte, Oliver, and myself. Charlotte and Oliver have a security role that enables them to access and work only with the cases that they own, or are shared with them, or are owned or shared with a team of which they are a member. Currently, Charlotte and Oliver do not have access to any cases at all. All the cases are currently owned by myself. I will now demonstrate the use of sharing to share one of these cases with both Charlotte and Oliver. When sharing this case, I will grant read and write access for the case to Charlotte, but read-only access for the case to Oliver. I have now logged into Dynamics 365 as Charlotte. Charlotte can now view and open the shared case. Because Charlotte was granted read and write access for this case when it was shared with her, she is permitted to make changes such as setting the contact on the case to Susanna Stuberod. I have now logged into Dynamics 365 as Oliver. Oliver can also now view and open the shared case. Because Oliver was granted read-only access, rather than read and write access for this case when it was shared with him, he is not permitted to make any changes to the case, and the case is displayed in a read-only mode as shown in the status bar at the bottom of the case form. I will now demonstrate the sharing of cases with a team. In this example, Charlotte and Oliver are both members of a team named Customer Support. Here, I will select and share all the cases owned by myself with the Customer Support team. After then logging in as either Charlotte or Oliver, I can see that they now have access to all these shared cases. I will now demonstrate the configuration of sharing through the use of access teams and access team templates for cases. There are 4 steps to be completed. The first step is to create a new or open an existing solution that contains the case entity by navigating to Settings, Solutions. In this demonstration, I am creating a new solution named Case Customizations. The second step is to enable the case entity for access teams by selecting the Access Teams option on the case entity if not already selected. I will now save changes to the entity, publish customizations, and close the solution. The third step is to create one or more access team templates for cases by navigating to Settings, Security, Access Team Templates. In this example, I will create two Access Team templates. One of these will be configured to provide read and write access, and the other will be configured to provide read-only access to cases that have been shared using these Access Team templates. I will now create the first Access Team template. You will notice that I've named this template Cases Read-Write, set the entity to case, and selected the append to, read and write access rights. Users provided access to a case using this Access Team template will have read and write access to the case, as long as they also have a security role assigned to them or to a team of which they are a member that grants them at least user-level read and write access for cases. I will now create the second Access Team template. You will notice that I've named this template Cases Read Only, set the entity to case, and selected only the read access right. Users provided access to a case using this Access Team template will have read-only access to the case, as long as they also have a security role assigned to them or to a team of which they are a member that grants them at least user-level read access for cases. The fourth step is to customize the case form by adding one or more Access Team template specific user subgrids to the form. In this example, I will add two Access Team template specific subgrids. One will be specific to the read-write Access Team template for cases, and the other will be specific to the read-only Access Team template for cases. The first will be used to add or remove users from the case for shared read and write access, and the second will be used to add or remove users from the case for shared read-only access. I will add a new tab named Sharing, and two related sections named Read-Write Access and Read-Only Access. I will now add and configure a user's subgrid to the first section and configure it to use the Access Team template for granting read and write access to the case when shared. The records field must be set to all record types, the entity field to users, and the default view field to associated record team members. The cases read-write Access Team template may then be selected in the Team Template field. I will now add and configure a user subgrid to the second section and configure it to use the Access Team template for granting read-only access to the case when shared. Again, the records field must be set to all record types, the entity field to users, and the default view field to associated record team members. The cases read-only Access Team template may then be selected in the Team Template field. I will now save and close the form, publish customizations, and close the solution. I will now demonstrate sharing of cases using Access Teams. From the form for a case, I can now view and expand the newly added Sharing tab that contains the Access Team specific user subgrids. The subgrid on the left-hand side may be used to add or remove users from the case for read and write access. The subgrid on the right-hand side may be used to add or remove users from the case for read-only access. This time, I will share the case with read and write access for Oliver and read-only access for Charlotte. I have now logged into Dynamics 365 as Oliver. Oliver can now view and open the case that has been shared with him through an Access Team. Because Oliver was granted read and write access for this case, he is permitted to make changes such as clearing the contact on the case. I have now logged into Dynamics 365 as Charlotte. Charlotte can also now view and open the case that has been shared with her through an Access Team. Because Charlotte was only granted read-only access for this case, she is not permitted to make any changes to the case, and the case is displayed in a read-only mode as shown in the status bar at the bottom of the case form. In conclusion, the use of Access Teams in Microsoft Dynamics 365 provides a more efficient, simpler to use and more visible method for sharing records, such as cases, with users. The use of Access Teams is more efficient with regards to the performance of the CRM platform for managing shared records. However, two limitations of using Access Teams compared with using sharing are that multiple records cannot be selected and shared at the same time, and Access Teams cannot be used for sharing records with other teams.